Hey fam. Fam. Am I cool enough to say that? I don't think I am. I have not posted on this channel in quite some time, and I apologize for that. I don't know, I don't even remember what the last video I posted was. And if it was what I think it was, I was probably talking about why I was not posting before that. I have a trip coming up literally in 2 weeks, my wife being a teacher. Summer is the only time that we ever get to go anywhere. So we got a trip coming up, which means that I have to have like 3 weeks basically of videos done before I leave so that they can post and I don't have to think about it while I'm on this trip. I'm going to try really hard to not take my computer and just relax, maybe read a book, drink some wine. Anyway, so it's crunch time. That's why I haven't had really time to post stuff on here, and I apologize for that. But I'm not here to talk about how busy I am. There was an email that I received. I get emails a lot. I've actually been getting emails a lot more lately. I don't know if there's that whole collective unconscious thing going on or whatever, but no. I'm really bad about responding to emails. As any of you who have emailed me know, how many excuses do you need? I'm just terrible about it, and I'm sorry. But I got this one, and I really, it was a heartfelt email that I felt like I really wanted to respond to, because I get emails that are usually kind of, I don't know, frivolous or just bringing up different topics and subjects that usually I don't know anything about. Most of the subjects that I cover on my channel are stuff that I have to research. So if somebody just drops me a question, it's like I don't know. I gotta look into that. But this one seemed more like somebody that really wanted to get an answer, and for more personal reasons. And I started to write it all out, and then I was like, oh my God, this is gonna take me all night. So then I thought, you know what? I haven't posted anything on the TMI channel in a while. How about I just do like a video response to this email? So that's what this is. Yeah, so I'll jump into it. This is from a guy named Doug. I will spare his last name because I don't know how private he wants this to be, because it was a personal email to me. He said he describes himself as a hick from Central Illinois, my kind of people. I'm just going to read the email. It's really short, and then I will have my response, which will not be short. So anyway, his email reads, watch your YouTube channel on and off, and I find it interesting. On and off, come on, man. Question for you. Is there a point to all this? I mean, life in general. You know, simple question. Curious your thoughts. Maybe you've touched on this and I've not seen it. I am a 52-year-old going on 53 and just going through the adventures of life, and sometimes wonder, what is the point? I mean, like, is there a reason for life? So yeah, small question. And like I said, I started to kind of write my response back because I have thoughts on this, and I feel like anybody who's asking that question is going through some stuff, because God knows I've been through some stuff. And so I didn't want to ignore this question. But here's my response. Doug, first of all, thank you for writing and being, you know, brave enough to kind of put something like that out there. I'm probably not, however, the best person to ask this question to, especially if you're going through some stuff right now, especially if you're in a life crisis of some kind, midlife, existential or otherwise. I'm probably not the best person to ask this question to, because my honest answer, which I always want to be honest with you guys, my honest answer is that I don't think there is any specific fundamental meaning to life. I just don't think there is. I am not one of these people who says that everything happens for a reason. I know a lot of people hold that belief, and I would never, by the way, I would never, ever try to convince somebody otherwise. If you are somebody who thinks that everything happens for a reason, and you're always looking for signs, and there's a greater purpose, and whether that's a religious thing or not, wonderful, do that. Life is so challenging, and the fact, the truth about our mortality and our limited time on this planet is so heavy and real that whatever it is you've got to believe or do to get out of bed in the morning and put a smile on your face, do it. I would never try to convince anybody that they should think the way I do just because it's the way I think. This is just one guy's opinion based on the existential crises that I've been through. And I've been through a few. I've talked about that here and there. And Doug, I don't know, I have talked about this in a previous video about how I kind of, my theory of life or theory of reality is that the world is kind of, it's guided by chaos and randomness and probability. I don't think there is a structure to reality. I don't think that, you know, again, I don't think there's a meaning to everything, and I don't think there's a reason for the things that happen. I think that everything is guided by pure randomness and chance. And that sounds upsetting. And at different times in my life, I probably would have found that worldview upsetting as well. But it's also freeing because we get to assign what meaning we have to our lives. And when we talk about meaning of life, there's several different levels here. You know, I mean, there's the individual human life, there's human life in general, humanity, the human race, and then there's just life, the process of reproducing organic molecules that, you know, somehow sprang up somewhere along the way, became multicellular, and now we got brains and computers and stuff. I don't know that there's a fundamental underlying meaning to any of that. But I do think that that opens up the opportunity for us to give it meaning, whatever meaning it might be for us. And that's freeing, I think. I kind of wouldn't want to live in a world where my life was assigned meaning that I then had to just kind of be okay with or deal with. I like the idea that my life can be whatever I want it, or it can have the meaning that I want it to have, whatever that might be. And that's challenging sometimes. You know, it's not always the easiest thing to figure out. But that's sort of the fundamental ride that we're all on as people, you know? And it's different for everyone. I've always thought, this might sound contradictory, but let me just put this other sort of, you know, thought process that I've had out there, which is there's different layers of reality. You know, you can start at the quantum level. We all know the quantum world is a completely different animal from everything that we know. But then just like, let's start at the cellular level, or the subcellular level. There's little organelles inside of cells that are moving proteins and ATP and different energy packets, and they're just kind of performing their little functions. And you could call them semi-conscious, if you even, I mean, I think that's a stretch, but you could call them semi-conscious. We could go with that. But I mean, they don't really know, these little organelles, that they are serving a greater purpose of the cell. They're just kind of doing what they're programmed to do. And then the cell, same thing. Cell, semi-conscious, if you want to consider it that, it's doing its own thing, it's processing energy, and it's, you know, pumping out waste, and it's doing its thing. Of course, different cells serve different purposes, but it has no idea that it's serving this organ that's a part of the body. And the organ has no idea that it's, you know, it's your kidney, it's just processing your fluids and making urine and hopefully not getting stones in the process. And it has no idea that it's keeping a body alive. And then you got a body, and we have no idea. We're just kind of going out through our day. We like to think that we're serving a purpose. We might be a bit more conscious than the semi-conscious parts of our bodies, but you know, we don't really know what that higher purpose of our lives are to the grand scheme of things amongst, you know, the whole superorganism of humanity. And then you have the question of where do you go out from there? Does the superorganism of the human race around the planet Earth serve some bigger purpose? We can't see what that is, but neither can the cells, neither can the organs, you know? So I guess where I'm going with that is, like, we might possibly have some deeper purpose. We might possibly have more meaning for being here than what we can see and what we can know, but we'll never see and we'll never know that. We just can't. It's just out of our it's just out of our scope. Of course, I am all for science, and I am all for exploration, and I am all for figuring out the mysteries of the universe and life, and maybe someday we will find that thing. Maybe we'll find a way to be able to see this thing, multi-dimensional, whatever, you know. But I'm going on the assumption that we're never going to be able to see it. But it's just physically impossible, and that the only meaning that we have in our lives is the meaning that we assign to it. And yeah, I feel like I had more I was going to say about this, but that's the main gist of it. It's funny because when I do talk about life being random and chaos, in case you missed the video where I talked about that, I still feel like that's true. There are people that I know that, well, let me back up. Okay. So there's this whole idea that, like, you know, somebody might say, oh, I had a dream last night about my cousin, and then I woke up this morning and found out that my cousin died. And it's like, ooh, spooky, ooh, right? And by the way, I love stories like that. I grew up like fascinated by stories like that and how it means something. But then when you step back and you look at it and you think, okay, there's 7 billion people on the planet. We all have cousins. And how many people die every single day? I mean, hundreds of millions probably. Well, maybe not hundreds of millions. Tens of millions of people die every single day. We most likely dream about people that we're close to, family, friends, or otherwise. So when you spread it out over all of humanity, the idea that somebody might have a dream about somebody and that person happens to die on that particular night, especially if that person is a family member or a friend, it seems a lot less unlikely. In fact, it becomes very likely. It becomes almost inevitable that somewhere out there that's going to happen. That probably happens every day, come to think of it, to someone. But when it happens to you, it feels like a magical event. And there's a lot of things in life that are like that. Things that just seem like there's no way that all the, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? The coincidences that happen, crazy coincidences. You think there's just no way that could just happen by coincidence. And in the limited scope of your life, yeah, it's very unlikely that would happen, but spread out over 7 billion people around the planet, it's going to happen to somebody every single day. And that particular day, it happened to you. And that's kind of how I look at life. I think, you know, when you, I talked about this in the other video, but Apple, when they first came out with the iPod, they had a shuffle function. And in the beginning, it was a pure random thing. It would randomly pick songs on pure random chance. The problem with that is that in randomness, patterns can form. You know, you might have 100 albums on your iPod. This must have been way back when iPods were smaller, but you might have 100 albums on your iPod, but you might wind up hearing 3 or 4 songs from the same album in a row, because randomness does that. If you flip a coin 100 times, it is possible you might get heads 10 times, you know? If you flip a coin 1,000,000 times, you might get it 100 times in a row. That can actually happen. Is it unlikely? It's unlikely to do 100 in a row, but to do it over 1,000,000, yeah, you get my point. But the point is, like, Apple actually had to change up their randomness algorithm in the iPod so that it's less random, because actual randomness felt not random. Does that make sense? So that's what happens in life. Life is chaos and randomness, but chaos and randomness falls into patterns. And when we see those patterns, we make something of it, not really understanding that that's the exact nature of chaos and randomness. And those patterns can be just in our lives. We all know, we've all had bad years, you know, where just like people died, and then that happened, and then we lost our job, and then we got divorced, and our dog died. You know, it's just like one thing after another, like, what the hell is happening, you know? But that's just, you know, over the spread out course of your life, and you're looking at all those years, that's just the year when all the bullshit just piled up in that one year. And that's what randomness can do. And then when you spread out, again, over all of humanity, you're going to have some people who their entire lives, And we all know people like this, by the way. I know I do. They just kind of waltz through life. Everything lands in their lap. Everything just kind of works out for them. And then other people just cannot get a break no matter what they do. You might be one of those people. I know I felt like one of those people. I've definitely had many years where just like nothing worked. Nothing. And eventually, right now anyway, that's turned around. Right now, things are good for me. I can't really complain. I'm actually very happy. That can change though. That's what randomness does. But that also, to me, it's a very freeing thing, because when you're one of those people, or you're in that time in your life when all the negative stuff is just hitting at the same time, it's really easy to assign more meaning to that than there really is. And you might think, why hast thou forsaken me? And you might start to get down, and you might start to feel like a failure. But when you look at it through the randomness and chaos filter, you start to realize that's totally out of your control. That's just kind of something that's gonna happen. It will probably pass. And you can kind of lay off yourself a little bit and just focus on doing your best and getting through it and moving on. Again, this is what works for me. This is totally what works for me. And even my worldview changes. Sometimes it feels like, yes, I've nailed this, and sometimes it just doesn't feel right at all. But I really hope, Doug, that by answering this, and I want to be honest. I don't want to come out here and say something just because it's probably what you want to hear or what, the moment might call for or whatever. But like, to me, it is a positive thing. The ability to create our own meaning, to assign whatever we want our lives to be. It's a challenge, but like I said, I would rather have the ability to assign my own meaning to life than to have it assigned to me. But ultimately, if the scientists are right, sun's gonna burn out, Milky Way is gonna dissolve or collide with Andromeda and become a different thing. Eventually all the stars will die out. The universe will just become a bunch of black holes that are radiating Hawking radiation for a Google years, and all the life in the universe will go away, and none of it will have really mattered. Fun. But while we're here, I've had a line that I've ascribed to my channel for a long time now, and I think it kind of speaks to the whole existentialist part of where the kind of stuff that I talk about, as well as the comedy. But I've said for years now that in the end, life might just be a big pointless joke, so we might as well laugh at it. That is my worldview. And I don't know. I hope that helps. I hope you at least appreciate that I was being honest here, and I hope that that's just a question that was in your mind and you're not really going through one of those life things. And if you are having one of those years where all the bad stuff just kind of piles up, man, just keep going forward. And I and everybody out here are pulling for you. Everybody goes through this. Anybody who doesn't go through this is just like kind of not paying attention. I feel like you're not a very serious person if you haven't had at least one existential freak out in your life, as far as I'm concerned. That's just all part of it. So let's just have fun with it. Let's laugh at it and make the most out of life and have fun picking your meaning, I guess. That's the way I look at it. So, hey, here's a guy who hasn't posted in a long time, then he comes in here and talks about how there's no point to life. So, yay. That's how you grow a YouTube channel. Anyway, random video on a random Saturday, and I hope you guys are having a good time. Hope you're having a good weekend. And I'm not even gonna say that I'm gonna be better about posting on here. I don't know. You're probably giving up on me on that. So I'll leave it at that. I hope you guys are doing well. I love all of you, and feel free to reach out and ask with any questions you have. Maybe I could do more videos where I'm responding to questions like this. That's kind of what the original channel was, so you let me know. Love you guys. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.